Involving an outsider in your marriage. I asked my husband of 11 years 16-year relationship to move out today. This has been a stressful year. I am a teacher and teaching online classes. He lost his job in early September. We live on some acreage and have a person that lives on property to mow and maintenance etc. I will call him Steve. My husband and I had a misunderstanding which led to a fight. Which led to him calling Steve and I overheard them talking badly about me. I texted Steve and told him I heard the conversation. Steve comes over to the house and they both scream at me. Steve chases me into the bathroom. I go sit on the back porch to calm down and get away and Steve drives around the house in my Hammerhead, like a golf cart, screams at me that I need to read a book called Emotional Blackmail. He calls it fog. He goes into my 18-year-old stepdaughter's room who is in an online class and has heard him yelling outside. He wants the book from her to give to me. I lost it and yelled, if you don't fucking like it here, leave. 30 minutes later they both apologized but I am really angry. My husband feels like because they both apologized that it is over. Why did my husband let this happen? He watched a man chase and scream at me with two of our grown children in the house. My husband does not feel like he is responsible for anything, Steve said, even though they were feeding off each other. My stepdaughter and son told me that I should divorce him and ask him to leave. Listen to your stepdaughter and son. I doubt they are saying this just because of this one incident. Ask them why they feel that way. I'm surprised a live-in-maintenance guy would have the guts to scream and attack his employer. Can't you report him to police or something? Wow, I would never allow someone else to yell at my so, especially with kids in the home. They both need to be gone. I'm glad the husband is staying somewhere else, but now you've got to fire Steve. What he did was not okay and sounds horrific. I would listen to the kids and definitely ask them why they feel that way. Is this the first time something like this has happened? Do you think it's the last? Don't allow things like this to keep happening. Stay safe and keep your kids safe too. Best of luck. I would listen to your kids. As a husband, I don't care if it is my friend, relative, her relatives, it doesn't matter. I would drop anyone who screamed at and chased my wife around. Unless there is some missing info, you need to GTFO of any connection with them. Your stepdaughter thinks you should divorce him. His own daughter is taking your side and is concerned about you. That is very telling. This cannot have been the first time something this unacceptable has transpired. There is more wrong with this relationship than you are sharing here, but what you have shared is more than enough reason to seriously consider divorce as an option. Your husband's own daughter told you to divorce her father and tell him to leave. Let that sink in. I think you need to get a divorce attorney and evict Steve. Talk to an attorney about filing a report against Steve and next time call the cops if he harasses you. He doesn't get to come into your home and chase you and your husband doesn't have the authority to allow him in to threaten you like that. Steve needs to be fired and told to leave. How dare he scream at you like that? Fire his ass. As for your husband, I'm 100% sure this isn't the first time he's bitched to Steve about you. He doesn't seem willing to take any responsibility for anything either. Don't ask him to leave, do it. Steve needs to go. Evict him. In writing. Today. I would ask the cops to come out to protect you and to have it noted in the police report. See a lawyer. And freeze the accounts so your husband and doesn't drain them or charge up the cards. Sounds like your husband is banging Steve. DTMFA. I'll be honest, if Steve started driving around in my property, on my property screaming to me about my relationship, I'd grab a shotgun and skeet shoot him right off the fucking golf cart. The balls on that guy to involve himself in someone else's relationship like that. Your husband sounds like a total warmer too. Imagine going to get another man to have an argument with your wife for you. WTF, fire Steve and tell him to get the fuck off your property. Steve, an employee of yours, chased you in your own home. You need to fire him and possibly press charges against him. If you want to continue with your husband, then you should get counseling, but I think you should lose both of them. Good luck, you deserve better than this, and so do your children. Remember that your children are watching you and you will teach them how to respect themselves and not allow someone to abuse them. The way this is written, listen to your kids. But at the same time, the way this is written, So much is being left out that almost every response here will be strictly confirmation bias. This behavior is inexplicable, based on how normal people act. Why does this person feel entitled to act this way? Why aren't there squad cars in your driveway while you're writing this? So much is being left out. I feel it's impossible to know what actually happened. Sorry, I guess. What in the West Virginia? I think there's more to this story than what you think there is. It's not natural that your husband allows for it to happen, so if the puzzle doesn't make sense it should be because you are missing a few pieces. Ask your children why they told about divorce and why they thought of it. I think your husband's relationship to this dude is a little bit closer than you think, or at least it would explain why he did this. Divorce your husband, and firing the dude is the first thing you should do regardless of what you find. This story don't make sense. Doesn't matter if someone is married to you, a friend, or in your employ, there's no good reason to scream at someone, let alone chase you in your own house. Doesn't matter how right Steve thinks he is, or even if he is right, the way he went about it, he's crossed a distinct and serious line that undoubtedly would leave you questioning your safety in your own home. The fact that your husband did nothing to stop this is deeply concerning as well, and at a minimum should constitute grounds for marriage counseling. Your husband and Steve are fucking. Get checked for STDs and divorce Duke immediately. I would go to the police. That's all. Yeah, you need a divorce. If your husband one doesn't have your back, two let Steve treat you like that, there's something seriously wrong. I also wonder if there isn't something fishy happening between husband and Steve. Steve has overstepped his bounds. It is not his place to rage about your home or at you or the children. Your husband is an ass and is probably in some sick relationship like soul ties with Steve. They both need to go. Also, report the incident and get the kid to be a witness. He loses his job just this month and you want him to leave now? Did you buy the property together, or is this something you owned before the marriage? If he didn't put his hands on you, you can't just make him leave. Fire Steve for getting into your private matters and tell the husband to sleep in another room. You can't banish him away from your home. It doesn't work that way. Not only should your husband leave, but Steve should be escorted off your property by the police. What he did is criminal assault. Threats are assault in most jurisdictions. If he's an employee, fire him immediately. If he's a tenant, check local laws about evicting him. Steve must go also. Call the police and press charges for attempted assault. You have multiple witnesses, the kids. Did he try to keep you in the bathroom? If so, that's attempted kidnapping. He threatened you, that's a threat. Get him hauled out by the police. Go to the courthouse and file a restraining order of protection and have him served in the jailhouse. He can only come back accompanied by the police to retrieve his belongings. Period. And if your husband is not ready for counseling, it's time to divorce. This is terrible for your child and for his. And even his child is on your side. Do it right and get a lawyer so that you can have a TRO ready to go the day you kick them out because they sound dangerous. Steve sounds mental, what the hell? Kick them both out. Steve needs to also find a place to live. For someone who's supposed to be basically an employee, he greatly overstepped. By Steve and by future ex-husband. I am assuming that Steve is 100% fired and off the property, or eviction has started. You may want a lawyer to start a more serious restraining ordinance. Are you kidding me? Who does Steve think he is? It's not his family. He should shut the fuck up. Based on your post history, it seems that your problems are bigger than Steve. Though Steve is a big problem and I encourage you to get him out of your life. Keep us posted because I think this is going to get more dramatic before it's over. Your kids are telling you to leave their father. That's big. You need to listen. Your husband helped a man assault you and terrorize your family and doesn't see the big deal. Divorce sounds like it's in the cards, but if your husband doesn't have a job, I wouldn't expect that he'll be leaving. There are always two sides to the story. This is very odd. The two guys gang up on you. It could be you might be impossible, nagging and demanding. And both just had a belly full of you. I'm not saying this is the case, but I have known some people that have complained about others and their actions toward them. When come to find out, it was the very one that complained about the treatment they received was the problem. Or could be the husband had been saying dreadful things to the handyman that he believed, and had been doing this for some time. There is something going on here because either these two are equally insane or they've had a long time to converse and have other things to be angry about, seems to me. This is a familiar feeling, being upset at a specific incident when the whole foundation is broken. A partner who won't protect and respect. The kids are the ones thinking clearly here. Listen to the kids. Outside sources and unbiased to the event itself. Ask husband and the help to leave. Yeah, this doesn't happen in loving relationships. Call the cops and report Steve. Get a restraining order if you have to. Have the cops tell him he is not welcome inside your home. Now go talk to a lawyer and file for divorce. What do you teach? You can barely put a full sentence together. And #X200B. Which led to him calling Steve and I overheard them talking badly about me. And #X200B. Did you mean? Which led to him calling Steve, and I overheard them talking badly about me. That's one example of 20 in your one post. Get your shit together. Listen to your children, especially your husband's daughter. Apparently Steve thinks he can chase you around your property in a threatening manner and your husband is cool with that. The both of them can get escorted off your property by the police. I'd tell Steve he has 2 weeks to leave, doesn't matter what your husband says. File a police report as well. Steve isn't coming back from this. Your husband needs to go for some time until you figure out what you want to do. Do you have feral hogs on the property? Steve would be spending some time on the business end of my 45 while out on the land. Time to slop the hogs. I agree that this has been an unprecedented hard year with everything going on in the world, which has added stress to everyone, especially relationships. Adding to that the loss of a job which will affect a month's worth to himself. But the major problem I have is the fact that he had to bring an interloper into the fray, which to myself is crossing the line. As you have mentioned in the past, the two of you have been able to talk out your disagreements. However, as long as Steve is involved in your lives, there is no chance to talk things out. And your husband not acknowledging that bringing in an interloper to act in concert with him creates an impossibility of reconciliation. You cannot fix what you cannot acknowledge. You need to evict Steve from the property and your lives. I do not know what your husband said to Steve to lend him to think you are an emotional abuser. However, Steve is nuts and needs to be fired and escorted off your property. And your husband and Steve obviously discuss you a lot, since he feels you are an emotional abuser. The book Emotional Blackmail is about emotional abuse, but if you are allowing hubby home, some stuff needs to straight up be figured out. However, what concerns me is his children are telling you to divorce him, which means they think it's all bad. I would heed their advice. Girl, leave him. He seems controlling and manipulative, not to mention leaving this grown man run around the house after you. Probably mortified the stepdaughter during class also. Do you seriously need to ask if you should leave him? Go and go fast. I'd report the incident and then contact a lawyer. Damn. Fire Steve, then lay down the law with the hubby or send him packing. Don't ask Reddit. Listen to your kids. Listen to the kids. The audacity Steve has. I mean, woo. You need to divorce your husband ASAP.